Welcome to Kelly's Quest, the Transnational Journey, 50 states and 50 stories. Madison, Wisconsin, ancestral home of the Ho-Chunk and Winnebago nations. The Ho-Chunk Nation understands the importance of language and its connection to cultural identity. They are addressing this concern in a myriad of ways, from using language apps to in-person teaching that uses the Siouan language given to them by the Great Spirit. Cultural identity is also important to the trans community. Here in Wisconsin, home of the Madison Gay Hockey Association, trans hockey players are working hard to maintain their community and identities in the world of hockey. Hi everybody! Welcome to this episode of Kelly's Quest, the Transnational Journey. I am in the beautiful state of Wisconsin, and today's guests are athletes. And I'm so fortunate that I have two people representing Team Trans Ice Hockey out of Madison, Wisconsin. I have Mason Lefebvre and Avery Cordingley with me, and thank you two so much for doing this. Mason, I will start with you if you don't mind. So you represent an organization called Team Trans. Is Team Trans a Wisconsin, Madison-based organization, or is it larger than that?
It's larger than that by quite a bit. There are a fair number of us here in Madison, but it is an international organization. We have players across the U.S. and Canada. Our organization president currently lives in Japan, and I know of at least one player in Australia.
Wow!
And a couple in Europe.
So when you all come together, that's got to be a logistical challenge to make these things happen.
Yeah, so we have a Facebook group that we use. That's often how we find people, is we just direct them. If they reach out to our Facebook page, we direct them to the group and get them involved that way. The person in Japan happens to be a U.S. citizen who works in Japan, but then did fly from Japan to Madison for one of our events. Other than that, I think we've only had people from the US and Canada at events, but we have others who are interested. But like you said, logistically, it's difficult. We have hosted players. Avery and I had 6 people, about half of whom we'd never met, living with us for the weekend, basically.
And this was all through the Facebook page and that organization?
Yes.
Okay.
So we put it out in the Facebook group, like, hey, sign up for this event. If you need somewhere to stay, let us know. It was all on our sign-up form. So some people got hotels if they knew a few other people that were coming. They got hotel rooms together. Some carpooled. We had a network of people from the Madison Gay Hockey Association also offer to host players. And so we had several of them, several other houses that were hosting a bunch of Team Trans players for the weekend and helping coordinate rides and stuff, since a lot of these people flew and didn't have a car with them.
So, and then you were talking about the Gay Hockey Association reaching out to you all. I know that in some communities, there's like this bridge, this gap between the trans athletes and gay athletes. And it sounds like here that gap is not really that big, or it may be larger than I'm expecting. Do you want to kind of go into that a little bit, Avery?
Yeah, so the Madison Gay Hockey Association is the largest queer hockey organization in the world, and we have a lot of Team Trans members who also play in the MGHA. But like any queer organization, there is still a little bit of a divide between trans people and cis people. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that we still have to work to create a space in which trans people are truly centered. So, enter Team Trans. It's a space that is, I guess, a subset of the queer community, but it is a hockey space in which there are only trans people. So it's got an extra layer of special to it. Like, the MGHA is already great, but then you have Team Trans, and it's incredible.
When you all are doing your hockey, I'm assuming there is a competitive nature to it, because you want to win. Do you all play against other trans teams and other cis teams? And like, is it just anybody that's brave enough to get beat by you all, come on, we'll beat you? Is that how it works?
So we historically have played teams of cis allies for the most part. Usually there's at least one or two other trans people, either by coincidence or because we didn't have the roster space or they weren't out, so they weren't sure if they wanted to play with us, things like that. So we played against Boston Pride when we played in Boston. We played against teams of players from the Madison Gay Hockey Association when we played here. We played in a queer tournament in the Sin City Classic in Las Vegas. In the fall, we're playing in another queer tournament, and then in November, we are going to have our first all-trans games, where we're going to have members of Team Trans on both sides of the ice.
That is huge. That means
as
how
part of
many
a
people do you
draft
have to
tournament.
recruit for that?
We're aiming for 4 teams of 15 skaters or 6 teams of 12 skaters. So right now we have, I think, 95 people that have expressed interest, and that's, even if they all showed up, we will kind of be in trouble on getting everybody enough ice time.
That's a good kind of trouble, though. That's the kind, I mean, you're still trouble. So it's an all-trans team, and this is not a naive question, but I think people out there might not know this. Is there a criteria that you all say you have to meet this to be able to play on a trans team, or is it just, I'm a trans person, and hormonal, medical, any of that, none of that matters? It's just how you identify as a human being?
If you tell us that you're trans, we'll take your word for it. You can play with us.
Golly, I wish that this U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships were like that. So when you all play, I guess this one's for you, Avery, when you all play in these leagues and everything like that, after the games, are there gatherings and things like that that you all hang out together to keep that community going? Or is it more, whew, I'm exhausted because hockey is hard and I need to go home?
It's very much more so the former. When we have these big events and people are traveling in from all over to play with Team Trans, they're also coming to meet other trans hockey players. They're coming to see friends they haven't seen in a while. They're coming to meet new people and make new friends. And like for a lot of us on Team Trans, we lost the sport in some way, shape, or form when we came out. And so to be able to come back to the game in a lot of people's cases as authentically ourselves is really, really big. And most, dare I say, all cis people do not get that. Like they just don't understand what it means to be told you're not allowed. Yes, queer people have, gay people have this issue in hockey a lot, but for trans people, it's even more othering. Like even in a queer league, people don't get it. And so to be able to be in a space entirely with people who have been there and understand the emotion behind like being able to step on the ice and not worrying like, is someone going to care that I'm not, obviously cisgender, whatever. Like it's huge. So you come to these events and you're kind of just resigned to the fact that you'll be exhausted all weekend because you don't want to miss out on any of it.
And that's really how it should be, I think, for the community. You have to see yourself in someone, I feel like it's like, oh, that's an athlete. Who was your sports role model, and did you happen to have is there any trans role models for you, Avery, really?
Not to name drop this person we're both going to name drop, but Harrison Brown was one of the first out like trans hockey players that I was aware of. Like speaking now, like most of my friends are trans and probably most of them are trans hockey players. But like before I had the words to explain what I was feeling, it was very much something where it was like I don't really see anyone like me. Like even before I knew I was trans, I cut my hair and like I dressed like this, right? And like you went into women's hockey spaces and so much of the time it was, everyone had the like ponytail halfway down her back and dressed the same in like leggings, like everyone. Oh yeah, the Uggs, very important. But like, so I remember like, I think I don't even remember what year of college it was when someone, shared the article with me about, Harrison Brown coming out. And I was just like, well, that's cool. Probably layers to that reaction, but like probably Harrison Brown if I had to point at somebody that was Mason.
How about you, Mason?
Harrison Brown.
I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, are there any other, like, can you give us a background of who Harrison Brown is, maybe for just a little second?
So he played in the Premier Hockey Federation when it was called the National Women's Hockey League. He played for the Buffalo Buttes at the time. I think it was the second season the league was around. Going into the second season, he came out as trans, and the league started using his preferred name and pronouns and everything, calling him Harrison. He played for, I think, 3 years. Yes, but I think he played another 3 seasons because he didn't want to leave hockey. He wanted to transition, but he didn't want to give up the sport. For a few more years, and once or twice said he was going to retire at the end of the season, and then June came about, and he was like, never mind. I need to keep playing hockey.
So do you think I mean, you can't speak for him, obviously, but do you think it was because of the community that he knew he was impacting also, or was it less like, I've got the skill to still do this, or a little bit of both?
Obviously not speaking for Harrison here, but I would guess it's something along the lines of like why leaving women's hockey for a lot of transmasculine folks hurts so much is because the women's hockey community is such a positive, like uplifting community that like it's a different game than the men's game. It's a different vibe. Like most women in the game of hockey, especially like our age, grew up playing either with boys or with teams of girls that were told they were not equal. They didn't get the ice time, they didn't get the resources, the coaching. And so a lot of women are like, I love this sport and that's why I'm here and I'm just happy to be here. And so I would guess that like it was probably like he has the skill to play, he wants to keep playing, but it might have also been that like he knew he would have to leave the community, you know, because the rules at the time said you have to.
You said the rules at the time. Can you explain a little bit about have the rules changed a little bit, maybe?
So the league has, the Premier Hockey Federation has slightly different rules. They originally, when he came out, they worked with Harrison to make some rules that would work, but it was basically if you were transmasculine and took hormones, you weren't eligible anymore. They've changed that, and it's, I forget the wording exactly, and it'll be interesting to see if it, at some point I expect somebody might try to try to get these rules applied to them, but it's like at the league's discretion and under doctor's guidance, you might be able to take hormones. It's worded much better than that, of
Right.
course,
Okay.
but
So
But it
there.
boils down to
it's kind of, yeah, it's a little open-ended. It gives the opportunity that someone could take hormones and continue playing, but the league still has to say okay on each individual case.
Is that so? Has that happened yet? Then where?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. Okay. It's cute. Do you all find yourselves playing a little bit better when you got a crowd there?
it's definitely more exciting when it feels like you're playing for someone else. Like, I mean, with Team Trans, it's like you get on the ice and there's almost certainly people in the audience or maybe watching on the we try to stream the games, watching who are kind of in awe of this. Like, we have a couple friends from the MGHA who have a trans son. He's about 9. Like he was our like he dropped a puck. Like you do like puck drops for like the guests of honor at hockey games, like a ceremonial puck drop, and he was our puck dropper for a couple of the games, and he was just in awe of just like I can do this.
My favorite part was probably that we asked him to do the puck drop for the very first game of the weekend. We had 6 total games that weekend, and we asked him to do the puck drop for the very first one. I got a text from his mom that night that he wanted us to know that he was available to do puck drops again the next day. So we were like, all right, I guess we're doing more puck drops. We made sure that he got his chance to come back.
That is great. So right there, that's an impact. A kid that I don't know if you knew this kid ahead of time or not, but there was a kid that looked at you and be like, I can do this. Does this happen pretty regularly that you all have youth come up to you as well?
Yeah, kind of. In Boston at the very first event, I had a fan that I heard. He was a 12-year-old trans boy, and apparently when he saw me in all my goalie gear, said, "Look, Mom, it's another goalie just like me." Um, so hearing that was pretty cool. That was pretty special. He later told me on Instagram that his two favorite goalies were Henrik Lundqvist and me. So that was also very cool.
Why did you choose to be a goalie and have things smashed at you at 9,000 miles an hour? And is it like, are people running away from being the goalie, or are you all knocking down each other to be the goalie?
So I'm going to address that last part first. For Team Trans, it seems we are all fighting each other to be goalie for the most part. There are a few people like Avery who have zero interest in strapping on the goalie pads, but there's a very, very high percentage of our team that at least plays goalie in addition to skating out, if not exclusively plays goalie. Place, I think it was, and I was thinking about this last night. It was at least in part because of the equipment, because it looks cool. I just like the way it looks. But when I was thinking about it last night, it occurred to me that you can, particularly on a goalie helmet, you can put whatever you want on it. They sell them usually in black and white at the stores, but you can have them painted or put stickers on them or whatever. And when I was a kid, that was like my dream. Most goalies that age, that's their thing, is like they want to get a custom painted helmet. But as a kid, I never knew what I wanted to put on it. And I only realized last night that it wasn't until I'd started to transition and find who I was that I knew what I wanted to put on a goalie helmet.
And what is it going to be?
So I wish I had my mask with me to show you, but it's the side of it, one half of it has an American flag stylized thing. It's got some stars on the forehead and some stripes down the side, but it's all in the rainbow. It's based off of the album cover from a Fall Out Boy album, American Beauty, American Psycho.
Okay.
Which was very important to me at the time that I was figuring out who I was and that I was trans and what that meant for me. The whole band Fall Out Boy in general was very important to me, but that album was came out like around the same time. So it just was important to me. And so I did the boy on the album cover has the face paint. So I had the mask painted just on the one side, and then the other side was just white because the other half of his face doesn't have anything on it. So then when I got a second goalie mask that I had painted, I did the same thing on the one side. The other side has matte white with pearl, like shiny white. So it's not obvious, and you have to kind of turn the mask to look at it, but it has the unicorn from our logo.
When you went on this journey to affirm your authentic self, did your family come along with you? Did your friends come along with you? Like, what was that journey like for you? And were you able to hold on to hockey the entire time through that journey?
Yeah, for the most part, it was fairly smooth socially. I mean, there's always, even from the supportive people, there's always going to be some awkwardness where they aren't great at pronouns or your new name for a while.
And what are your pronouns, if I might ask? I'm not
he, him.
He, him. Okay.
When I first came out, I was actually using they, them, which my mother never quite got the hang of. So I think she was very happy when I decided that he, him was more comfortable for me, because it was definitely more comfortable for her. There's a fun story about the time she bought entirely too many cookies for Avery because she forgot that Avery was one person and not multiple when I said they.
It's a problem.
I mean,
we had so many cookies.
Too many cookies, is that ever a problem?
Oh, absolutely not. But we did have a lot of cookies. But no, my family and friends were very supportive. I did step away from hockey for a little bit. I partially was just in college before I'd totally figured out that I was trans, or like why I felt different and stuff like that. I'd already stepped away a little bit because I was in college and there wasn't a club team to play on where I went. By my senior year, I played a little bit with the women's team, with the women's club team, and then a little bit with the Division III team at the school. But I knew that I was trans by then, so I didn't I wasn't super comfortable, and it was definitely
Oh.
kind of weird. I I think I left one season off after graduation, and then I went back to women's hockey again because I found a team that practiced on Sunday nights, and my work schedule was evenings during the week, so I couldn't make pretty much anything but Sunday nights or Saturdays. Um, and so I found this team and was like, sure, I guess I'll do this. And I submitted my paperwork, and my name was legally changed, and they didn't bat an eye about the male name on my paperwork. So I was like, all right, I mean, it's probably a decent group to play with.
Right.
But I didn't tell them anything. Like, I was using a gender neutral nickname. When I first came out, I was using Alex. Um, and so I just introduced myself to this team as Alex, and they didn't question it. I mean, why would you?
Were you goalie on this team?
Yes.
Okay.
But they had a brand new goalie, and I was coaching and splitting time with her. So I was playing some of like half the game and coaching her through her half and stuff like that. And a couple months into the season, I decided I was going to start hormones. And just because of the way the timing all worked out, I didn't get a chance to tell the team until the night before I got my first injection. And we got off the ice, and I made sure that my entire team was in the locker room and told them, like, I am trans. I use he, him pronouns. Like, Alex is actually short for Alexander, not Alexandra, like you probably assumed. I'm starting hormones in the morning, and I don't feel like I should be playing women's hockey anymore. And that was very difficult because for me, when I transitioned and when I came out, the idea of losing women's hockey was the only thing that upset me about it. Like, the only time that I don't mind being misgendered is if you're just talking about like women's hockey and not specifying that, oh, by the way, the goalie's not a woman. Like, I don't care. That's fine.
Avery, I think I want to talk with you about what your journey has been like with your family, and what are your pronouns? I haven't asked that yet, and I apologize. My pronouns are she, her, hers. What are your pronouns?
My pronouns are they, them, theirs.
They, them, theirs. And your family, are they on this journey with you?
Yeah, for the most part, my family has been accepting. I haven't had any issues with any of my family that I've told. My dad passed away before I could come out to him.
I'm sorry.
But like everyone else, I have not lost family for being trans. I mean, when I transitioned in college, I came out over the summer, and it was the summer between. So I started captaining my women's club hockey team at college, and then I came out in the summer. And one of my fears that summer was, well, now what am I going to do? Am I going to leave my team out to dry? Am I going to have to give this up? Like, what do I do? And I was lucky in that my team did not care. Like, they accepted me for who I was. You know, they stumbled over the new pronouns and the new name for a little bit. Okay. But I captained that team until I graduated. I ironically also played with the men's club team at the same time. Just really
Because you're that much of a hockey junkie, right? You like the sport that much.
I like to joke that when I started helping one of my good friends from college, he was the captain of the men's team. I started helping him captain our senior year. I sort of joked that as a non-binary hockey player, this was the perfect role for me, is to captain both teams. Clearly, and so I luckily did not have to give up the game because of to live authentically, because I started hormones while I was still in college. And yeah, and then I moved here, and I was afraid. Like, when I moved here, I didn't really know anyone. I applied to join the MGHA like when I moved here, but in the summer there wasn't a season happening. So I didn't really have a community that first summer, and that was really hard. And then the season started, and I met so many great people, and I didn't have a women's team, and so that was a little bit of a hole like in my life. So I was playing MGHA, which is great, but it is co-ed, and so you don't. It feels great, but it doesn't feel the same. Like, it's not that same sense of like joy and meaning. And then we talked about the Pirates earlier, and then I would say the Pirates walked into my life. I was introduced to the founder of the Pirates, and she essentially was like, our policy is if you're comfortable playing for a women's team, we are happy to have you.
Wow.
And I joined as a practice player that halfway through that season, and I've never gone back because it's an amazing environment and everyone is supportive and accepting and just wants you there because they like you as a person. They want to play hockey with you.
That's so, I mean, at the end of the day, that's it. We're people. I think, they like you as a person. If I had that crazy incentive to be like, I want to take up hockey because Team Trans sounds like the greatest hockey team ever and I want to be a part of it. Can a person with no skill set be taught and join your all's league?
Absolutely.
Yes, I want to do it, folks.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've actually had people reach out to us on social media and ask about, like, well, I've never actually played hockey before, but I've always wanted to, or I just heard about your team and it just sounds cool, so I want to try, and things like that. We just encourage it.
I can be a goalie.
I wouldn't recommend it if you want ice time. You can, but if you actually want to get on the ice, I wouldn't recommend it because there's too many of us.
The goalie. Is that why you didn't become the goalie? Because you're like, no.
I just have absolutely no desire to play goalie, and I want that on record.
How in the heck can you have enough trans people that want to go to Sin City and play in a hockey tournament? I guess it's so humbling.
I think part of it is visibility, right? It's like we started with, like Mason said, 16 people, and they had to struggle to find a goalie of all things, right? And now it's kind of like the more we do it, the more people are like, oh, wait, I'm trans and I play hockey, but I didn't know there were others, like obviously like in the back of your mind that there are others, but like there's a difference between being like aware that there are probably others around and I could go to this place at this time and skate with and play with, 50 other trans players, right? Like it's special, and the more we do it and the more people learn about it, the more people want to participate because there's something just unique and special about being in a space with other trans players. I mean,
it's for me it's hugely gratifying to be around other trans people. It just is. Nothing against cis people whatsoever. Wonderful. But there's also something to be said about being around community occasionally. I mean, I wouldn't always want to just be around trans people because I would think that would be limiting on my perspective of life. So we're getting close to the end of the episode, but I do want to talk about something else, and that is, did you all come together because of Team Trans? Did it bring you all together, I guess? Did hockey bring you two together?
The hockey brought us together, yeah. So I've met some of my closest friends specifically through Team Trans, and I think that's probably true for a lot of other players, like especially those that might not have had a trans community or a trans like hockey community or a trans athlete community. It's been a lot about building a network for a lot of people.
And one quick question for you, take that. What is your favorite part about playing hockey?
Just the thrill of the game. Like there's just something about being on the ice with your teammates. Just you have a good play, you score a pretty goal, your goalie makes a great save. Just something about that hockey celebration, Like I played in a tournament last weekend, and we get on a power play, and we had no goals on the board yet, and just the magic clicks, right? You win that perfect face-off draw. Your wing gets it to your D, and they just take it wide, and then you hear it go off the post and in, and all of a sudden there's 5 of you like hugging and patting the helmets on the ice, and it's just special.
How about you? What is your favorite part of the sport of hockey, Mason?
Always making the saves that the other team has to appreciate too. When they don't expect it and the net seems like it's wide open and there's no way they can miss, and then all of a sudden I've got the puck in my glove or I got it with my stick and they're like, oh, how did I miss that? Or sometimes it's enough that they come over and are like, that was an amazing save. Those are my favorite moments. Long before I ever knew that I was trans or had words to describe how I felt about myself or whatever, I always felt good and safe playing hockey. because I would put on all the gear and all that mattered was me, the puck, and my teammates.
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, same for me in high school. Like, I was looking back, clearly very confused about my gender. And I was the only girl on a boys hockey team. And, you know, I didn't have a good time with my body, but when I got on the ice, you know, you put on, 30 pounds of equipment, and no one, people don't care as much, especially if you have like an androgynous haircut. No one can tell.
So thank you everybody back home. I do appreciate it, and we are out of here. The episode is over. We'll get back to you with everything. Bye. Next stop, Illinois, where we will discuss K through 12 public education from a transgender occupational therapist's point of view. I want to thank everyone who made a donation. Your generosity is what makes the transnational journey possible. To help grow the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.